Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. You know, roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right? Yeah. I want the man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West.
Internet. You know, is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
Welcome to Auto Off Topic. What's up, Brad?
Not much, Andrew. How have you been?
Pretty good. We missed a week. We're on Olympic break.
Yes, fully Olympic break. We were fully set up to just watch the Olympics and not do car stuff for 2 weeks. So this whole entire episode is going to be a review of the Olympic Games in France.
I will tease that we do have guests coming up on the next episode, and it's already recorded, so it will
in the
happen.
can, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as so often we tease and then we don't, but it's actually coming this time.
Well, we're turning over a new leaf, Andrew. We're becoming the podcast who says it will do something and then it will.
Serious automotive podcast.
Very
Not
serious. Well, we've teased for a long time the Scale Auto Cast portion of this, but I think we've determined that we're just going to mix some Scale Autocast back into regular Auto Off Topic because it makes more sense.
It sure does.
Also because we only ever recorded one episode and didn't do anything after that. So
yeah, it's just
so we might as well just add it into our episode. And if you don't like it, fast forward a few seconds. So
yep,
that's where we're at. Anyway, so I did joke about doing a whole episode about the Olympics, but the Olympics did just end. And do you have any new favorite sports, Andrew?
Oh yeah, the kayaking slalom was pretty cool.
Yep, absolutely.
It's funny. This is the first year that I've actually been able to watch like a lot of it, and it's probably because of and I know a lot of people did this, so I'm not telling on myself. Being able to work from home a couple days a week, you just have it on in the background.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Peacock app, as annoying as it is that it's another app, and we've talked about this, they did like that gold zone where it would be like 4 up or 6 up, like different things. And they had there was people announcing those channels. Like you go to those individual channels of those sports, but then they had a separate group of people calling the gold zone, and they'd be like, oh, something's happening here. And they like zoom in on that sport. It was actually kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it made for interesting watching. I've never really watched the Summer Olympics before, and I don't know if it's just because of work or just because of other life things, but it never really. I always watch the Winter Olympics because it's all like fast downhill things, and I never really got into Summer Olympics. But I certainly enjoyed it this year. That's for sure. I watched a lot of obscure sports that I'd never thought I'd watch, and I fell in love with rugby and a couple other.
Yeah.
Sports that I never envisioned myself watching, but now have watched. So I'm into it. But anyway, yeah, that's it's not why we were off for 2 weeks, but we just happened to coincide with that. So just busy life stuff. In fact, I was in Massachusetts for a while during that time.
Yeah, I don't think we covered that I had a birthday.
Oh, you did. Yeah, that's why everybody listens to find out when our birthdays are.
Yep. Yeah, I had a milestone birthday,
year.
So.
Yeah. Andrew is now another decade older. Yeah. I see. I don't know if they call 40 over the hill anymore.
Not anymore. I don't
over
think.
The hill now.
I don't think so anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be as big of a deal anymore to hit 40.
No.
But no, I came to Massachusetts for a few days to help, celebrate your birthday, and borrow your G20 to drive around for a bit, which every time I drive that car, I realize how good it is. I know I've said it before, but my God, it's such a good car.
It's a really good car, surprisingly. Actually, yeah, I ran an errand in it today at lunchtime, just like around town. It's like really nice.
It reminds me the driving dynamics better than, but it reminds me of the Mirage. The lightweight, the steering rack feels about the same, lock
It has
to
a
lock.
big steering wheel.
It's got a pretty big steering wheel, but it's a stock steering wheel, so it makes sense. But I mean, it's obviously better than the Mirage because he spent a ton of time and effort making it better than the Mirage. But it's very similar feel. It's like a more premium version of the 95 Mirage we used to have. And I'm not comparing it to a 2021 Mirage, which are terrible. Well, maybe not terrible. I'd never driven one, but I'm comparing it to a 95 Mirage when the Mirage was more on the line of like a Civic. It was based on a Lancer.
Well, what a 95 Mirage cost? What, $8,000?
Probably.
And this was probably 16.
So it's two Mirages.
Yeah,
yeah. Obviously, it's a nicer car. I'm not. That's what I say. I'm not comparing it. Car for car, but it just has that mid '90s high revving 4-cylinder, lightweight front wheel drive 5-speed feel. So.
Well, it's funny because outside of the United States, you could get a 1.61 that was like a total stripped down base model Primera economy car.
Sure.
But when they decided to bring them over here as entry level Infinities, they built them seemingly a lot nicer. Like the car only has 113,000 miles on it, which is not a lot, but it's also like super tight and it doesn't have any like squeaks and rattles, which is cool.
Yeah, no, the car's very tight. It's good. It's good. I want one, but I don't want one because I don't want to have all the same cars as you.
Yeah.
So, but I want one.
Yeah, it's good. I like the way the shifter is because it's like a linkage. It's a good car.
Yep. Excellent car. Anyway, other than the rock I picked up in the brakes on the way home, which was annoying.
Yeah, it's crazy how the smallest rock will sound like the brake pads are going to fall out.
As I initially thought that the caliper was hanging up, but it was not that. So
yeah, no, it should be like, because I've done a lot of track days on it. Like the brakes should be in good shape.
Yep.
But it's just the problem, like for whatever reason, with the sticky tires and those particular type of brake pads, like it just seems like they're seemingly just be like a magnet for rocks. Like they just
it's funny
find their way in there.
I drove the car all the way to New Hampshire and back, and driving it around in New Hampshire, I never had an issue, and I was literally in PBD, Massachusetts, where there's no dirt roads at all, and that's where it happened. So, yeah, whatever.
It's fine. I rolled it backwards, lightly touching the brake, and I think that's how I dislodged it because it's not making noise now.
Perfect.
Yeah, should be fine. I'm actually like, I think, I drove the Galant the other night too, and it felt like a brake was hanging up on that, but then like it doesn't seem like it's hanging up after driving it. So there is Grid Life coming up this weekend at Lime Rock. So the Galant's on deck for me to drive it there, but and I think I'll be fine with it because I don't know when else I'm going to drive it to test it out. I drove it Tuesday night over to the Marblehead Cruise Inn, which is I think I've talked about it. They're doing like a monthly summer show over by Devereaux Beach.
Yeah, I saw some cars and people I recognize there, but didn't see my dad there yet. I'll have to find out why he's not over there.
Yeah, I think their other club that they're in meets on Tuesday nights or something. So,
well, I don't think so because the other guy who's in that club with him was there. That White Nova, Doug.
Yeah, but he's not. Is he an officer? I don't know.
I think Doug might. I don't know. Anyway, that's all.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't keep track of those clubs.
I'll ask him.
But
yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool show. Super laid back. Ton of Land Rover people. But lots of other stuff there. Like there's a good amount of some 90s stuff. There's my car. I was next to a cool E30 convertible. There was a lowered Mark II Volkswagen that's super clean.
Mark 1.
Mark 1? Okay.
The white one?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Now that I look at it, yeah, it's a Mark 1. They have like less body creases.
And they're smaller.
Yep.
And I'm just being a pedantic jerk.
Yeah. So was that a Scirocco, the black one?
There was a Mark 1 Golf or Rabbit in the US.
Did
and
I-
there was a Mark I have to look again at the Scirocco. It was a Scirocco. I forget it was a Mark 1 or Mark 2.
Yeah. So there's some stuff like that.
But I wasn't
And
there,
then-
so that's my excuse.
And then there was some other like, American cars, and then the other side of the lot they had I don't know if they borrowed it or something. It ended up changing lots for some reason, but all the like Model A's were over there. There's like a Marblehead like Model A club.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's cool. I'm into it.
Yeah.
I would
So-
love to own a Model A.
I had the Glan out, drove nice over there, was driving decent. No, it should be all right. I hope. I'm going to drive it 3 hours to Lime Rock. We'll see what happens.
So I'm looking
think
at
I
the
need to-
pictures right now. That is a Mark II Scirocco.
All right. I don't think I need to make a last minute change to the G20. So,
Oh, I'm sure it'd be fine. I mean, again, we talked about it before. The air there is so damp that any bare metal gets a rust ridge or a spot of rust on it pretty quickly, and cars sit, and the calipers can get a little something on them, and just driving it once cleans it up. So I wouldn't worry about it.
yeah, it needs to be driven anyways. I need to burn some gas through it. So, we'll see how it goes. But I'm looking forward to Grid Life. That was really cool last year. I didn't bother with media because it was like they didn't give me full media access. They just gave me like weird sort of media privileges. It was like, well, you can shoot from all the spectator areas. And it's like, well, I could do that anyways.
Right.
Really, the only benefit was I got free entry. And this year, instead, I just paid for entry. So, I don't know.
But the benefit now is by paying for entry, you get parking in the show area.
Yeah, which was funny. I went early enough last year because it's not like an early crowd that I got to park there anyways. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, this year I was just like, whatever, I'll just buy the ticket. And
Yeah,
go.
well, you're guaranteed the parking now. My guess is that this year it's probably going to be more popular than last year, just as it's the second year and it was good last year. So,
Yeah, and that's basically why I knew I was going to go there. That's why a few weeks ago I talked about it. I had the Gallant lined up. So, you don't want to have it going crooked down the road.
nope.
The last big road trip it did was to Greenwich like 2 years ago. So,
For the Radwood show?
yeah.
Was that 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
Is it 3 years ago now?
Yeah, I feel like it.
I went to 2 Greenwiches with it. So, which I was thinking about. I like saw the stickers on the back. I was like, that was actually in hindsight kind of cool that the car's been on the lawn at Greenwich.
Yes, it is very cool. Yeah, because I went it must have been 3 years ago because I was in town and we went with my dad and his Celica and we met up with stylist guy Scott there.
Yeah.
So my guess is that was 3 years ago. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But that's either way, 2 or 3 years is too long to have not taken a long trip in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely definitely time to take a trip.
It's running a lot better than it was. So it probably just needs to be like, it needs some exercise. So it'll be good. It'll be a good run for it.
Well, I'm definitely
AC's
gonna
not
have
working
some,
so great, but I'll deal with that.
definitely gonna have some FOMO from this missed event because I was planning on going there this year, but with just having been there for last weekend, just wasn't gonna work out. So
It's also car week, which is like another thing that I keep saying and then I don't go.
Car week is interesting to me. I don't know if it's me justifying not being there, but also I'm like, it's all supercars now, it seems. Or
Well,
maybe just the coverage is all supercars that I see. Maybe there's more stuff there, but
so I have for work we use Slack, and there's a bunch of, for work channels, but there's also a bunch of like for fun channels. One of them is like Yay Cars, and we've got offices here and we've got offices in Northern California. So one of the employees posted up that he brought his ST-165 Celica all-track.
Okay.
It's black with big white Motive style wheels. So it looks pretty cool, but he has it displayed for the week or for a few days in the Infinity like JDM or Japanese like Legends or something show. I forget what they called it.
Okay.
So that is happening, and it's like parked next to like a Piero Evo, which is cool.
All right. Well, I think I'm just being a little grumpy about rich guy car stuff recently. Just because some things have annoyed me, especially. But I was invited to go this year. I had it all lined up to go, and then just with other trips I have planned, I couldn't take more time off from work. So,
yep. It is called Infinity Prevents.
Prevents?
Infinity Presents Japanese Automotive Invitational by Motor Trend.
Yeah, so that's the same thing that I think our friend Myron went to a couple years ago, the first time they had it. So that's cool. I'm definitely into that. And I don't know, hearing other people talk about it, it's like, well, if you want to go to this event, that's $300. And you want to go to this event, $700. It's like, oh.
This is funny. So featured show quality vehicles from private collections, automobile museums, manufacturer collections, exemplify Japanese innovation, design, performance, originate rich historical, blah, blah, blah. The list of vehicles on display includes, they only have 3 here, a 2003 Infiniti FX45.
Yay.
It's a significant vehicle for Infiniti. I remember them when they came out. They were quite popular and they sold quite well, but it's a weird car.
It's a terrible car.
69 Datsun 2000, that's cool. 1980 Nissan Patrol, that's cool. But
that's it.
Yeah, and the rest are private ownership cars. So
it's interesting that the Infiniti. So those must be the Nissan owned ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of these years I'll go, and like I said, I was planning on going this year, and just at the last minute didn't work out. So
yeah,
I hope that my friends who went there brought a full size cutout of me just to make sure I have the full experience.
The FX45 is that bright gold color they had, that copper gold. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a cool color.
There's an NSX. There's a early long wheelbase or 4-door Toyota Land Cruiser. I forget what those are called. A Nissan POW. Yeah, some neat stuff. Someday. But anyway, yeah, we got some upcoming events. I've missed a few Cars and Coffees. There was 2 that were on my birthday, and we were out celebrating, so didn't get to go to those, but oh well.
JAI, Japanese Automotive Invitational. That's what it's called.
Yep. Okay.
So.
What you're in the middle of your super hot season, so I don't think you've been doing any car stuff.
Oh, I mean, I've been a little distracted by doing the ultimate car thing.
Yeah.
I've been building a garage.
How is your garage coming?
I have a garage.
It's pretty cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Achievement unlocked.
Yeah, exactly. So I've talked probably ad nauseum about it here at the plans and getting everything done, but I now actually have a garage. So it's the exterior of the building is pretty much complete, other than any flourishes I want to add. I'm now just waiting on. I had the guy from the garage door company out here yesterday, and he was taking all the measurements and the angle of the roof pitch in the front so he can have the correct pitch for the high clearance doors so they won't go in the way of the lift. So I'm waiting to hear back from him with final pricing and quote on that. And then Saturday morning, I have an electrician coming out to kind of go over what I want to do and where I want to have outlets and what needs to be done to pull power from the the the, the panel on the house, and give me a quote on what that's going to cost. So
You can't get
other than
you can't get power from the street.
I couldn't because all our lines are underground.
Oh, okay. And that would be too much.
Yep. So it makes more sense
Yeah.
to pull it from the service panel on the house. And we're going to dig a trench from the house to the garage as well to run it underground there too. So there's no overhead wires at all.
All right.
So
Well, then it's better that you haven't repaved your driveway yet. Then
that's part of the reason we haven't done it yet. So we're waiting for everything to be done, and then kind of once cars are off the main lawn back over where they belong, we can kind of relook at everything and decide exactly how the driveway is going to go and what's going to go where. But yeah, we do have to wait for that to happen. We're going to bury, tubes in the ground to run wires through and go from there. So no big deal. It's just one of those things we got to wait for. So yeah, he's coming out Saturday morning to quote us on electricity and kind of go over all my plans and where I want outlets and make sure we have the 110 and the 220 outlets in the garage. So that's going to be cool. I had an epoxy floor company come out and professionally install like professional level epoxy floor. It's really nice. I can't say enough about how good it looks.
nice enough to let your old cars leak oil on it.
Well, the beauty is that it washes off. Unlike concrete where it soaks in, if a car does leak oil on this, you just wash it up and it doesn't stain. That's part of the important part. I will try to not have cars leak on it as much as possible. I'll run drip trays on cars that do drip and ultimately fix cars that drip. But in the meantime, this means that it won't be a stained floor. It'll be a nice floor. It'll always look nice, and it's a brighter color than the plain concrete. So it also kind of gives a lighter light inside the garage as well. So that is cool. And I made sure I wanted to go with one that had like the flecks in it, but not a lot of dark flecks. So it's all very light. I think it's called Coyote, or there were two we were going back and forth. One was Coyote, one was like Sandstone. What's that?
How appropriate. It's called Coyote.
Yes. So you can picture the color. It's kind of like a very light tan with other color tan flecks in it. So I didn't want something that was dark and you drop a bolt and it's gone forever. I wanted something that you could see in. So that's good. But it looks really nice, and they did it right out the front garage door, and like it's gonna be nice. I'm not trying to build like a show place garage here. I want it to be a working garage, but also it'll be nice to have it finished. So
next week, Brad will be like, "Oh, I've got the hexagon lights going in, and
no hexagon lights,
all the monochromatic cabinets,
no matching cabinets. In fact, I'm excited to put all kinds of different cabinets in there. So I don't want to have anything super fancy. I want it to be functional over fancy. I want it to look nice, obviously, but not anything super ridiculous. My hope is to create more auto off-topic videos out there. So we want it to have a little bit of a good look, but it'll be chaotic on the walls like a proper garage should be. Not one poster in the back and that's it. It'll be good. I assume you'll like it. Yeah, it'll be a garage. It'll be a proper garage. So, but yeah, no, it's coming right along. Like I said, the building's up, the exterior is done, the interior floors are done. I have to do drywall, but I'm waiting for. Well, I shouldn't say we, Naomi and I have to do drywall, but I'm waiting for the doors and electricity quotes to come in. We're not going to be burying the electricity in the walls, unfortunately. So we are going to do the drywall before the electricity goes in, only because two sides of it already have fireboard put up. And
yeah, I saw that. I was wondering what that was.
So yeah, because two sides of it border the neighbor's walls within 3 feet, we need to have 1 hour fireboard, which basically means that it can burn for an hour before burning through. Yeah. So they had to put that up in order to get the green tag from the city that it's a, not an occupancy permit, but basically an occupancy permit that we can use it. So because they had to put that up, if I put electricity in the walls, I have to cut a hole in that fireboard, and then you need to do all kinds of extra work to reseal it back up again. So I said, well, we'll just do external. I mean, it's a garage, so
we'll just run the conduit with the metal boxes.
I'll have metal boxes and external conduit, but again, it's a garage. It will look fine.
Kind of adds to the look.
It gets that industrial look, exactly. So we're going to get that taken care of after the drywall, but that's okay. It actually will make making changes easier in the future too, I guess. So, and servicing it will be easy too because everything will be external. So yeah, we're going to do all the insulation, all the drywall. We're going to have to do like a not expanding foam, but like a blow-in kind of insulation behind that fireboard, which we had to look and see what we could use because it's a firewall. But I guess you can use most of that stuff is good because it's obviously not a flammable material for insulation. It's fire retardant as well. So that has to happen, but that's all happening in the future. Step one is going to be garage doors. Just got to get, closed off in there, and I can go from there. So I'm excited because every day it's, one step closer, right? So I could technically put cars in there right now if I wanted to, but I'm trying to resist until there's more. Have to move things less instead of putting things in, putting things out. So I don't want to start filling it up and then never finish it. I want to finish it first. Maybe I'll put a car in there for some pictures so people can see the scale of it. But in the meantime, I'm trying to resist using it. So, but no, it's exciting. It's almost done, and I couldn't be happier. So
that's cool.
I mean, it could be twice the size that it is, but let's be real.
Well, you built the biggest you could build, so
yes, yeah, it's
that's
never
what you should always aim for.
Right? Yeah,
build the biggest garage that you can build.
Yeah, if it was twice the size, I'd be still saying it wasn't big enough.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter how big it is, but it's big enough that I think if I put them right, I could probably squeeze 5 to 6 cars in it for dead storage with no lifts. It wouldn't be very practical. Practical would be 3, maybe 4 cars without lifts. But yeah, it's good size. So
when you're standing looking at it, which side is the wider door?
The door on. So if you're looking at it, the door to your right.
Okay.
So when you first pull down the driveway, the wider door is on the right, and that's where the double lift is going to go.
Okay.
So that door is 12 by 7. The other door is 10 by 7. So that was the other issue too. I wanted to go a little wider on one of the doors, but you're limited because you need to have structure, obviously. So
I think on 2-post lifts, you can do symmetrical or asymmetrical arms. Have you looked into them at all? I think the argument is that you could do symmetrical arms because you could either pull it in or back it in to work on a car.
Okay. I haven't done a ton of research on the 2-post yet. I've been looking more at the 4-post for the other side.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be first because it's for storage. But yeah, I'll do a little more digging. There's a few different designs I was looking at too, like ones that go over the top, ones that don't have a bar across the top, and then there's different obviously weights and heights and sizes and all kinds of things. So I don't.
They actually
super heavy duty. But.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's gotten to the point where like a company like Rotary Lift actually does cater to home hobbyists now. So
yeah, because there's enough of us.
Yep.
They realize the market is there. So there's so many good lifts in the market that are 2-post lifts now for a hobbyist. So they're user friendly and not super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely going to go with a name brand. I'm not going to try to cheap out on something as far as a 2-post.
Yeah, I mean, like a rotary is like the one that comes to name. That's the one I've seen the most in shops that I've been in. So
Yeah, there's a few others too that are out there that are quality products, but I'll make sure I get a good one because I'm gonna be underneath it. But more importantly, I'm gonna store a car underneath it, and I don't want any cars falling on my other cars. So I can run out of the way. My car can't move fast enough.
yeah.
So
Well, that's really cool. I'm glad that is coming along for you.
yeah, I mean, if you asked me a year ago if it was gonna be here, I told you no. But that's just my negative attitude, right? So
Yeah.
I'm forever grateful to Naomi's influence in helping me do this, and pushing where I need to push every once in a while, because anybody who knows Naomi knows that she's tell her to do something, or not tell her to do something, but suggest something and she'll do it. She's one of those don't talk about it, just do it people. So we complement each other well. Because I'm one of those talk about it over and over and maybe eventually do it kind of guys, and she's one of those have a half casual conversation about it that's not really serious, and next thing you know, you get a garage in your backyard. So all points where points need to be to her for that one. So plus she also wants me to help finish her Mustang, so I'm sure that's part of it.
Exactly.
And the other part of it is my dad's been bugging me to get the Camaro out of his house, and I didn't want to bring it here without a place to put it, because obviously, a 50-year-old interior and roof would fall apart immediately in the sun here in Phoenix. So
Right.
having a garage to put it in is going to be key. So that'll also be taken care of as soon as I have doors.
Nice.
Yep. So
All right. So we talked about we were on a 2-week Olympic break. So was NASCAR.
They were.
They went back to Richmond, and I think we talked about maybe on 2 weeks ago that they were going to have an option tire. They're actually going to do it in a points race instead of just the All-Star race. So that was like, all right, this is going to be kind of cool, because Richmond had the ridiculous tire wear in the spring where the tire was just like falling apart. So it was a lot hotter there, and they had the option and prime tire, which prime tire is like the regular slick, and the option tire is just softer.
Which we will herefore refer to as soft tire and hard tire, because listening to other podcasts talk about it, they call it the option tire. It got confusing.
Yeah, just say hard and soft.
Yep.
Reds and yellows.
Yep, which is that's how F1 calls it, right? Hard and soft, reds and yellows. F1 or IndyCar, or
yeah,
because they all have the same thing.
But it makes sense. I hope they do it more often, because it was pretty cool. It brought some interesting strategy in. So they only gave everyone, I think, 2 sets of softs.
And you had to use them.
You had to use them.
Pretty sure you had to use them. Or maybe you didn't have to use them.
I don't think you had to use them. I think it was totally up to the teams. I think they could have run. I think it was possible to do the entire race on the hards. And interestingly enough, it was like a green flag race for most of the race.
Yeah, there was not a wreck until 2 laps to go.
Yeah, and we'll get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, first stage, nobody wanted to run the softs right away until maybe it was like 30, 40 laps in.
Yeah, first round of green flag pit stops.
And the 99 Suarez team, they've already got a win, so they're in the playoffs.
Yep.
They're like, let's try it. And he was in like 20th or something. He was way back.
18th or 20th. He was back. He was pretty far back. Yeah.
They did not have good track position. And they bolted on those softs, and Daniel Suarez drove through the field like they were going backwards.
Yeah.
It was wild. And then you could see everybody was like, oh boy, we gotta switch up these tires.
It was like you were the computer car and everybody else was a non-playable character in NASCAR 98, just driving through everybody like they were not even there.
Yeah, it was cool. And it was like, man, that's like, they got to keep doing this, because I think it worked out.
It definitely worked out. And the only fear I have about that moving forward is once a strategy is figured out, every team does the same thing every time. and then it's no
That's
longer a
true.
strategy. It just becomes how you run the race. So the other thing people were talking about was just getting rid of the hard tires altogether and just running the entire race on softs, because they did have a pretty good fall off on them.
They did.
So you'd have a lot of passing with people with different, different lap counts on their tires if you just ran the softs the whole race. I'm not sure which way I feel about that, or which way
I would give them more softs and a hard tire option, because you could run long.
Have to run the hard at some point.
Yeah, because you could run long. Yeah, I suppose if you gave them more softs and they ran out of softs, then they'd have to run the long, right?
Sure.
Limit the amount of tires they have, right? You don't give them an unlimited.
Which they do already.
Tires.
Do already. But so basically, what I've heard from a couple different sources is the most important thing is to make sure that tires don't last as long as a tank of fuel.
Exactly.
Because if everybody has to come in for tires when they need fuel, then there's no strategy. Everybody's in the same strategy. So you need to make it so that the tires and fuel are at different times.
Exactly. Because you can come in and do a super fast stop and skip fuel and get fresh tires.
Yep, exactly. So that's the big thing. Make sure that tires don't last as long as a tank of fuel. And then obviously having a race like we had this past weekend where there's no yellow flags except for the stage breaks, and again,
there would have been no passing on the other tire.
Correct. It would have been like the problem we've had with all of the short tracks this year, is that there's just not a lot of action on track when there's not a lot of action on track. There's no wrecks, there's no resets, and the cars spread out and nobody can pass because everybody's on equal footing. So when you have different cars on different strategies, that's when you get a lot more action and a lot more passing and a lot more of what NASCAR is. So
and then
I'm curious what they're going to do moving forward, because there are a few more short track races the rest of the year, and short tracks are where this problem is. So anything a mile or less is where we have, this issue. So
it was promising though. So Suarez ended up winning stage 2.
He stage 1 or stage 2? Stage 1.
I think he won stage 2. No, or was it stage 1?
I think it was stage 1, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. It's not important, but I'll look it up anyway.
Sure, because I'm pretty sure it was stage 2, because then he came out and he had to switch to hards. He was off cycle with everybody else,
which was also cool. And
yeah, he got shuffled right to the back. It was crazy,
but not all the way to the back. And then he wound up being able to keep his
long run them
positioning.
out.
Like he finished top 10 overall.
Yeah, because that was the other thing. So he switched to the hards, and then he got shuffled to the back. But then the softs were only lasting like 35, 40 laps tops. And everybody had to come into the pits, and he cycled back up to the front and was able to stay out there for a while. So they did really well. They had a really good car, and they had a good idea for strategy. But in the end, it didn't quite work out. And a lot of people tried some different things. And that was the other crazy thing, right? So you also had people like Kyle Busch, what they messed up with a tire. They didn't get a tire on.
Yep.
And lost a ton of time. And then like, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 laps later, came in and put softs on to get his lap back. He was able to drive around the field and get a lap back.
Yep. 100%.
That was pretty cool.
Yep.
And that the same thing happened to Swartz towards the end of stage 3. He was off cycle with everyone. Came in for his set of softs, was a lap down, passed the leaders. Came cruising up by them. I was like, I was watching the onboard. They had the onboard, because I think at that point Austin Dillon was leading, or was challenging for the lead with maybe Hamlin.
Hamlin, yep.
And so the rear looking camera, they kept going around the corner. I was like, I think that's Suarez coming up super fast in his orange car that he had this weekend. And all of a sudden he just came up and passed both of them. It was like, whoa.
Yeah, no, it was between 2 and 3 seconds a lap faster.
Yeah. And nearly caught up to him. It almost worked. It was like, man, so close, but didn't quite, until I think they started to fall off a little bit because he was probably pushing too hard. But not draw this out too long, that brought us to the extremely controversial finish after Ricky Stenhouse Jr. spun with like 2 laps to go, right?
Yep. Yeah, Ricky Stenhouse and Ryan Preece.
Who spun directly in front of Austin Dillon, who was leading at the time, and almost collected him there. It was weird.
100%. And it didn't seem to make much sense because Stenhouse and Preece weren't even racing for position. And
Yeah.
I don't think Preece did anything wrong. I think Stenhouse just drove the corner way too hard and just somehow lost it. It didn't make much sense. There's been some tinfoil hat conspiracy theories that he's mad at Richard Childress Racing and saw Austin Dillon walking away with it. And he's like, fine, you want to do that? I'm wreck on purpose and reset the field so you won't win. But that's serious tinfoil hat stuff right there. So who knows?
They're both kind of like back marker drivers that don't do much other than kind of cause cautions.
So I'd stick. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has been terrible lately. He's collected, I think, every top driver in the past.
People are calling him
in the past few weeks. Ryan Preece is a very good driver. He, I think, if he was in a team with better equipment, you'd see him a lot closer to the front. So, also,
RCR
New England native
has been totally sucking. What's that?
Yeah, well, he's time for him to get out of the sport because he's a pain in the butt. Not a fan of him, especially after the end of this race.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so what happened, Andrew, at the end of this race? Not that anybody needs to hear about it because they already know, but we'll give our take.
Well, it's funny. I finally, for some reason, Marco, he's really gotten into NASCAR. Well, that's not surprising.
For some reason, I wonder how. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been showing it to him. We've gone to races. He really likes it. And he's really good at recognizing the numbers and remembering all the driver names. So it's quite funny. He'll like talk about where they are in the race, like give his own commentary. But for whatever reason, he's like really fixated on Joey Logano. He's like, just likes him. I'm like, all right, whatever.
He likes to pick the heel.
You pick your driver, So I showed him the recap.
Logano needs a fan, so it's good that he's got one now.
So he's got a childlike appeal, I guess, because he still seems like a goofy dork. So, I showed him the recap, on YouTube, the 20-minute recap, and we get to the end, and I'm like, "Look, Logano's in the lead." He's like, "Oh, Logano's gonna win." I was like, "Ooh,
oh no,
like, we'll see what happens."
You're crushing children's souls again, Andrew.
Yeah. So
what is Marco's take on things?
He was just like, "Why didn't he win?" I was like, "Oh, he got crashed at the end. That happens sometimes." So anyway, not jump ahead there. Stenhouse Preece spin out, cause a restart. You've got, I think at that point, maybe the tires were mixed or everybody was on reds. I can't.
Almost everybody was. There were like 2 cars that were on hard tires still. Only cars that were on hard tires are ones that already used both their sets of reds.
I think you had Austin Dillon on the bottom, first position, Joey Logano second, Hamlin third. I think Reddick was in fourth, and then Wallace behind him in fifth.
Yep.
And they're talking about the commentators. They're like, Logano's like one of the best restarters, and Austin Dillon is like one of the worst.
Right.
And sure enough, he got absolutely walked on the restart. Like Logano,
he forgot he had to race.
And I thought they said maybe Logano got a little push from the 45, but whatever. That's what happens because when you're coming, they're explaining it. They actually explained it well on the NBC broadcast that the restart zone is exactly that. It's a zone. So as soon as you hit that entrance line, anywhere within that, you can do your restart. So you can control it as long as you're in that zone until the leader goes is when the restart happens.
Correct.
Which is pretty interesting. And they were saying, because I forget, is the commentator is Jeff Burton, I think. So it's
I don't remember the names. Yeah, that's what it is.
But they're trying to explain that, like, well, if I was Dylan, as soon as I hit that first line, like I would go. Like,
Yeah, don't
to
play
try
any
to get,
games. Just go.
yeah, just get the steam rolling, and get out of the hole. But whatever he did it wrong, and Logano was gone.
Yeah, Logano anticipated when he was going to go and was ready for it. So he didn't break any rules, and he just went for it. So the cars that are behind them, if they accelerate a little earlier and they give a little bump to the car in front of them, it's not illegal either.
That's just the way it is.
And that's just the way it is, and that's what happened. So Logano got a bump, and Austin Dillon was asleep at the wheel. It's like drag racing reaction time, right? Like,
yep.
Logano almost red lit, but
it was funny because they went to the radio in Hamlin's car, and he's like, "Oh, he's going to mess it up, and I'm going to be in the third. I'm going to take the win."
Right.
Okay, cocky, but
well, hey, it's almost what happened.
If honestly, on restarts like that, you technically the third position is like the power position. Like you have more chance to win from third than you do from second.
Yeah, I'd say third through fifth have probably the highest chance of winning on one of these green white checkers, just because of the way that happens and because of how aggressive first and second are going to be. That I'd say I don't know the numbers, but a good percentage of the time, first and second wipe each other out, and not intentionally. Just it's racing.
Yeah, I mean it's basically what happened at Daytona this year.
Okay,
you had like Chastain was almost leading, right, and then everybody got wrecked, and Byron snuck in there. So I think he was like third or fourth, or maybe even fifth, if I remember right. But anyway, this race
out of nowhere win.
I mean, Logano was like a couple car lengths ahead, maybe a car and a half. And you're like, well, he's got it with a lap to go.
He had 4 cars on him at one point.
Yeah, it was like, well, this is his to lose, but it looked like he had it. And then coming out of turn 4, Dylan was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And whatever it takes was just ram Logano out of the way.
Yep.
He spins into the wall, and then just like, what did he keep, like foot flat? And just because Hamlin went around, because he obviously slowed down as he hit Logano. So Hamlin was like got out in front of him.
Yeah, Hamlin was like, well, the prophecy I foretold is coming true.
Yeah. I mean, that's experience.
Yep.
That's you don't win 50 races and not know stuff like that. So and then he gets right rear hooked, right? Was it right rear? Yeah.
Yeah, he got hooked. He like basically pit maneuvered on the right rear, which is a huge no-no.
Dylan just like drove through him. And then he took the win. And it was like, okay, that was like the most insane, aggressive push to win I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it wasn't even a push to win. It was just I'm going to crash anybody in my way out of the way.
It wasn't like, I'm going to move you out of the way and we're racing hard. That was like, I'm going to drive through you.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad because if Austin Dillon's car didn't make contact with the back bumper of Logano's car, he was going entirely too fast to make the turn, and he would have been up in the wall. The only reason he didn't go up in the wall himself was because he used Logano's car as a brake and put Logano in the wall, and that enabled him to carry on, but he lost enough momentum that then Hamlin was next to him, and he's like, well, Hamlin's not going to win either. It's on me. And he just turned the steering wheel into the side of Hamlin's car. So he was just, it was, I mean, listen, I've done this to like you and Jordan when playing
it was a video game.
Forza, but you don't do it in real life. You know, you don't do it in a video game move when you're having a serious race either. Like it's that dirty of a move. It was gross. Yeah. And NASCAR agrees.
It would have one thing if he had come down and door to door with Hamlin, and if they bump in door to door.
Sure, that's aggressive.
That's how the race
aggressive
finished.
Racing. Yep.
Well, without even I don't think, because he still wrecked Logano. That was still a bit much, but and then
if he had only wrecked Logano and didn't take out Hamlin afterwards, you could almost make an argument that he tried to make a move and he blew it. And inexperience, whatever. But the fact that he took out Logano the way he took him out, and then he took out Hamlin the way he took him out, it was like, no, this guy knew what he was doing. He was just there.
It's desperation.
Yeah, he's desperate.
And it was almost as bad as what McDowell did, I think, at New Hampshire, where he had just that late race. I forget who he wrecked. I think it was Blaney. It was like a real dumb move.
Yeah,
Him trying to like get position. It wasn't even for the win. It was equally as dumb.
except it was less. It was less visible because it wasn't for the win. It wasn't the last turn of the last lap.
No. And people are blaming the. Yeah, it's probably part of the playoffs setup is kind of weird. It makes guys do desperate things like this, but even if you look at acts of desperation like Chastain's wall ride, he at least didn't wreck anybody. It was dumb.
It was dumb, but it worked
because it wasn't. It wasn't at the time against the rules.
Sure.
And people were just like, okay, you didn't. That's pretty annoying, but you didn't like.
It's annoying, but also it's cool, and you pulled it off.
Yeah,
well, that's slide.
It was a viral moment for NASCAR, and it really didn't. It was kind of a no harm, no foul type thing, but they were just like, all right, now it's a rule. Don't do that again.
Yep.
We didn't say you couldn't ride the wall, but now we're saying you can't.
We also didn't think you could, but hey, here we are. So
these next gen cars are quite durable. So we didn't say dogs couldn't drive the NASCARs.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what would the Air Bud movie be called for NASCAR?
I don't know. Rough Racing.
Oh man, that was too easy for you. But yeah, that's probably it.
Now coming to Disney Plus. It's straight to streaming. It's not even worth a theatrical release. There's no rules that say dogs can't drive.
Let the dog play. Now I'm into it. Anyway, Jinx. That was a finish. It was a finish,
So,
and because of the rule, that meant that Austin Dillon is now in the playoffs, even though he was like 32nd in points. And
well, that was on Monday.
He gets a ton more, sponsor money and all kinds of stuff. But NASCAR said, not so fast.
Yeah, so he was allowed to keep the win, but they removed him from the playoffs.
Yep, which is fair.
Yeah.
So that's the only punishment that would stop this kind of move from happening again in the future, and it gets rid of that desperation move that's dangerous. And it's not that it's unprecedented. It's already illegal to hit somebody on purpose in the right rear and spin up to the wall. Ironically, that's because of what happened to Dale Earnhardt, who used to drive the car that Austin Dillon drives now.
Yeah.
Not that was on purpose, but that's the kind of hit that sent him into the wall that killed him, and brought us obviously, the Hans device and no more open face helmets and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that that's what happened to Earnhardt, because it was not an on purpose hit at the time, but they've made this whole right hook thing illegal for a reason, and drivers have been fined for it over and over and over again. I think this is the first time that we've seen it used so blatantly at the end of the race to win the race, and they kind of didn't know what to do. And they haven't done a lot of stripping a win away from somebody over the years, so stripping the win away was probably too much, so they didn't do that. But pulling him out of the playoffs, I think, is a pretty good punishment.
More severe penalty.
Yeah, it is. Ultimately, it is.
And it ends their season. Like, they're not. That's it. Because he's not going to have a good race for the rest of the season, because nobody's going to let him.
No,
he's got more payback coming to him.
Well, 100%. Yeah, somebody's got to hit him every race now, because everybody's mad at him.
And Logano was not without fault either. He was superheated, went into the pits, and was like acting a fool with the car.
Sure, and he got fined for that too. Yeah.
They fined him $50,000. That was fair.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And the talk is that technically it's a hot pit, and there shouldn't have been anybody out there on foot that was not a crew member.
Shouldn't have been.
Even if there was nobody out there on foot that wasn't a crew member, the crew members are allowed to be out there and driving like that with a broken race car. like he had two wheels that weren't bolted to that car, and at any point, he launched the car like he launched it. He could have lost one of those wheels, and the car could have made a hard left and run somebody over real easily. So that was stupid on his part, and I'm sure he'll admit that. So the in-car camera of that is like, dude, what are you doing? So I understand being mad, but come on now. So, but yeah, no, it was definitely interesting, and as always, NASCAR got a ton of coverage for themselves, and they love it. For something that they deemed illegal in the end, they certainly reshared it enough on their social media.
Certainly. Well, that's NASCAR. Now, we're going to talk some Scale Autocasts.
Oh,
because we haven't talked in a while. Privately, you and I have been discussing RC cars for a while and getting back into them because the technology has significantly changed.
Yep.
It's a lot better now. I mean,
Very
it
much
wasn't terrible, but it's like a significant improvement. And I had purchased a re-released Tamiya Pajero CW01 kit, which is kind of like a comically, it's 1/12 scale, but it's kind of a comically proportioned sort of monster truck 2-wheel drive buggy thing.
It's like a 1/10 scale version of one of those like Tamiya
when they re-released it. Yeah. Same chassis as like a lunchbox, Tamiya lunchbox, which is the van, like a Chevy van type thing. But I bought it when they re-released it because I was worried, it was over a year ago, that Tamiya does re-releases, and then after a while they go out of production again, and then maybe 10 years from now they'll re-release them or something. So I wanted to make sure I had it because I thought, oh, that'd be a cool thing when Mark was a little bit older to build it with him. And it reminded me of the Nyko little Bubba monster truck I had when I was a kid.
Yep, very similar. We both had that one.
Um,
our history of having the same cars goes all the way back to then.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you had in the stores, right? So it was only a certain amount. But I was like, well, that's more fun than buying like, like some Chinese off-brand RC toy because they just break and then they break and I can't fix them. At least if it's a Tamiya and we break it. Because I told him, I was like, this is ours, but we'll share it. I'll help you build it. I didn't want it to be like, this is yours. Like,
sure.
Because then it's not technically a toy. And I got
it's a hobby grade toy. You're teaching him.
Yeah, I got to help him drive it. And, so he's super excited. He's going to help me build it. I'm waiting on the bearings to come. I should have waited till I got the bearings before I showed him the thing because he's like, when are we going to build it? I'm like, a couple more days. Sorry. I did like the chassis.
Just teaching him the art of waiting for parts. It's fine.
Yeah, and then I realized I was like, oh, the next thing is like assemble the gearboxes. I was like, well, I really don't want to assemble the gearboxes. Take them apart and assemble them again just to put bearings in it because that is the one thing. Several of these new Tamiya kits come with speed controllers, electronic speed controllers now, and Tamiya kits have always come with the 540 motors.
Mm-hmm.
So really all I had to do was add the radio to this, which is nice. But the only other thing, if you're going to build a box stock kit like that, the only other thing that you should spend an extra $20 on is a bearing set because it makes it that much faster having ball bearings versus the little bushings that it comes with.
Not only faster, but it makes the batteries last longer.
It does, and there's less maintenance because they don't wear out. Like the plastic will eventually wear out, and you'll have like a loose wheel bearing on a RC car. So I had that for a while. I was like talking to you about it. I was like, maybe I'll buy a radio, and I got a vacation coming up, and I was like, I'll build it with him over that week. And then, we had my 40th birthday, and you were kind enough. You gave me a brand new Tamiya TTO2 kit, which is cool. And I was like, all right, now I'm into it. And then this is funny. So you gave me that, and then we're up in New Hampshire, and then I was coming home that following Monday. I was like, where are the hobby shops up here? There's a hobby shop in Manchester, New Hampshire that does RC stuff. They sell a lot of Traxxas stuff, Axial, Tamiya kits. I just want to stop in and see what the place looks like. I'm not going to buy it. Wink, wink. I'm like looking around the place, and they had a little closeout shelf. They had open box Axial SCX24, which is the 124 scale rock crawler for $100.
By the way, for all of this, I'm sorry, not sorry.
Ready to run, $100. I mean, I went up to the counter. I was like, "So this is all complete?" He's like, "Yep, it's all complete. Just the box is open." I was like, "What's the regular price?" He's like, "Oh, it's $125, and you're in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax." I was like, "All right, $100. Like, comes with the battery. All I had to do was add four AAAs actually for the transmitter, but we've been using that thing in the house. Me and Marco, so much fun."
That's also my fault because I bought the 124th scale Piero probably a month ago, which I wish I could only use in the house because I made it very dirty outside.
Yeah, I almost bought one of those, but then this was like, $50 to $25 cheaper. So I was like, all right. It's got like a 67 Chevy pickup body on it.
Yeah, no, it's a much better chassis than the one that I got. So you definitely have a better. It's a better overall vehicle. I just bought the one I bought because Mitsubishi nerd.
Yeah, and I like to get Mitsubishi RC bodies and stuff just because I'm also nerdy like that.
Yeah, so I'll probably wind up also buying the one you have because I like the truck.
It's super fun. Like it's crazy that like it basically has a locked center diff and locked front and rear diffs. So it's just full-time, full drive. And with like that was the thing that's like really cool that come about in the last like 10, 15 years is the crawler style RC vehicle. They just like go slow, but they'll just drive over everything. So we set up obstacle courses with magnetiles, and we took some Legos and like built stuff for it, and it just like drives right over them. Super fun.
Yeah, so, I've been way into the RC crawler thing for a while. I've amassed, I think I have 3 or 4 RC crawlers over the years that I've never really finished. So when that 124th scale kit came, or not kit, but ready to run Piero came out, and it was, I think $140 or whatever, I was like, they're going to get me again. So I bought that one and I started actually using it, and I was like, oh yeah, I've been like really into these, but on the outside looking in, and like I kept like researching them, and then I bought like a kit, and then I bought another ready to run 1/10 one like probably 8 years ago, and it was ready to run with a bad body on it, and I never got a proper body for it. And I was like, why haven't I finished this? So I got that 124th one, and it's kind of reopened my RC love as well. So I actually finished building one of mine the other day too. So this is definitely all because of that Piero. It's kind of what did it all. So,
well, I also had like probably 10, 15 years ago, I had a Tamiya CC01, which is the cross country chassis kind of crawl. I had it set up for crawling with a Piero body. For whatever reason, I sold it. Now I regret selling it because the kit is discontinued and they're super expensive. And I was like annoyed that you can't get them anymore. So like that was super fun. So I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. Maybe I can find one. But that's the other thing when you're getting back into it. Like if you're not going to go racing, just buy the Tamiya kits because they're not super expensive and they go together really easily.
Yeah, they're fun. Like drive around the yard, kind of find big open.
I started that TTO2 chassis Monday night, and I've just been doing a couple hours a night this week, and it's all done.
Right.
Like I basically have to plug the wires together. So. And that didn't have bearings. I got bearings, and I installed them as I built it. But it's pretty cool. And so I have that. I have the other Piero. I bought that Axial, and then I was like, you know what? We're up the lake a lot. I always wanted a boat. I never got a Traxxas Villain when I wanted one, but Traxxas still makes boats, so I bought a boat.
Again. I'm sorry, not
It was
sorry.
Midlife Crisis. I haven't tried it yet. It's probably, that's the thing. The Traxxas stuff seems like it's like super fast. I'm a little worried to try it, like how fast it's going to be, because it's got like a 20 turn motor that's like liquid cooled, which is kind of crazy.
Listen, we can't have a midlife crisis real car because we have always had real cars, regardless of
Yeah.
time. So we might as well have midlife crisis RC cars.
So that was the other thing too. Growing up, for my birthday, probably I was like 11 or 12. That was my first real RC car I got, was a Tamiya TO2 FF chassis, which is front wheel drive, the FF01.
Yeah, we both had one of those.
Yeah, and it was the 850 BTCC kit. And I think, I am 99% sure I gave it away. I don't have it anymore. I don't know where it is. I asked that person, they're like, no, I don't have it anymore either. I'm like, well, that sucks. So I nostalgic bought a broken one on eBay from Japan that had similar mods, because I just really wanted that one back. So that's going to be a restoration project, because they do now make 3D printed, like right where it's broken in the front gearbox, like plastics. People make or have the files to 3D print and replace that piece, which is cool. So, but a lot of the other parts are still available, because it had a lot of shared stuff with TAO2 chassis. These are all Tamiya chassis codes. Sorry. So we're
People get mad at us when we talk about BMW chassis codes. Imagine how mad they're going to be when they start hearing Tamiya RC car chassis codes.
It's kind of cool. It's got similar stuff to the way I had it. It has the same heatsink I had on the front. It has aluminum pieces kind of where I had them, but it also has the carbon chassis, which I never had, which by itself is a few $100.
I was going to say that was way too expensive for a teenage us.
Yeah. So that's just going to get restored, and I'm trying to find, we found a company, but I'm trying to figure out how to get the body. There's a Premier P10 body. So I'm trying to figure out how to get that body to me in the United States. And that's just going to get that body, and I'll do it up like the G20. So
park it on a shelf.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll drive around the yard a little bit, and then it'll go on display as just a cool piece.
Yep.
I had an RS4 Rally, and I was like, that's kind of cool, but they don't really make parts for those anymore. They're not as easy to get parts for as the Tamiyas. And then I'm looking, I was like, well, I'll probably end up with it at some point if I really, really enjoy this TTO2 or TT02. Tamiya basically has their own rally chassis that's like all set up.
Right.
I was like, I'll just, for the same money as used RS4 rallies, I was like, well, I might as well just buy the new one, and it's a Tamiya.
Unfortunately, I've also been bitten by the bug. I have a very similar story with my front drive chassis that I had when we had them together. I didn't have the Volvo. I had the JGTC Toyota.
Tsurumo or something?
No, Tsurumo was the sponsor. The Carina?
Yeah. I thought that's the kit you had.
Yeah, it was EXIV Tsurumo Carina, the red and white one.
It's crazy, because there's a complete 850 kit on eBay, $600.
Yep, there's a complete Carina kit on eBay as well, and it's $799. So
yeah,
I'm not buying that. Yep. But anyway, so I had that kit. I do not know what happened to it. I haven't given up hope, so I have not bought another one yet. But I do still have my HPI all-wheel drive RC chassis, and that is slated to get some resto work done as well. So at least I'll have that.
So one of the things I noticed is that the hut setup, like early on, Tamiya's had shaft drive, and then the hut setup was belt drive.
Correct.
And now it seems like everybody's gone away from belt drive, and now they're back to shaft drive.
Yes, that seems that way. Even the professional like racing touring car is a shaft drive now, whereas belt drive was the way for a while because it was quiet and smooth. So like my RS4 is a belt drive. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting. I'm way back into it. I'm a little bummed because I was hoping to go and do some racing, but there's no on-road racing here anywhere, it seems. There is a big drift track, which requires a whole different chassis, so I kind of want to go check that out.
Can't you do it with like converted ones? and just like drift wheels?
I mean, you can, sure, but if you want to go have a good time with everybody else who's doing it, you should probably have one of the new ones that has they have like a gyro in them. That helps with the counter steering, I guess.
Huh.
Yeah, they're pretty advanced now. So I kind of want to go check that out and see what that's all about because, I'm not into the whole off-road racing thing. There is a big
No.
off-road racetrack here, which actually I went and visited the other day because there's a hobby shop out front. Do you remember back in the day, all the RC car magazines had this one driver who was like king of the world dirt driver?
Yeah.
Brian Kinwald.
Yep.
So unfortunately, rest in peace. Apparently he died a couple years ago. 45 or 46 years old. He's pretty young. He had a lot of medical problems, but he was a really good RC driver. And I walked into this racetrack here in Phoenix, and I noticed that in the pit setup, so they have the racetrack off to the right, and the pits are a bunch of tables with workbenches on them and stuff. And the first pit said Brian Kinwald, 1970, 1 to 2022. And I was like, oh, that's weird. It turns out that was his home track.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So apparently he was from here, or he's from California, but moved here. And all of those pictures of him in RC Car Action magazine and everything, a lot of that stuff was done at that track. And that track hosts like world finals every few years. So I can't find any on-road racing, but we have like the premier off-road track ever is here. So that's kind of neat, but I'm not really into the off-road stuff. So except for the slow crawling stuff.
So we said the electronics are better. It's mainly like the radio and the speed controllers
And the batteries.
and the motors and the batteries.
So everything.
Because that's where I was getting, I think, where part of the reason why I got out of it was the batteries weren't lasting very long. I wasn't getting much out of it. And to get new batteries at the time, it's the early 2000s, they were just like so expensive. I couldn't do it.
Yep.
And the chassis we had were getting older. Now the ones that we would have had are like cool retro, right? As
Sure.
everything happens. But like we both had Futaba Magnum Juniors, which were just like single channel.
You had a Magnum
Crystals,
Junior.
FM,
I had a
Sport.
Magnum Sport. Yep.
Now I was like, well, I know the Futaba name. I'm gonna go back to a Futaba. I spent $150 on it. It came with a receiver. It's 2.4 gigahertz, and it's got an LCD display, which I remember used to be like this $1,000 radio back in the day. But that was even for like an FM radio. This is like a blend. It's not quite Bluetooth, but it's the same as like a cordless telephone. The 2.4 gigahertz.
Yeah, I don't know how the technology works, but I know it works really well and has a super long range too.
I noticed that. So like the antennas are a lot shorter. This radio holds 10 models, IDs in it. So I bought two. The radio came with the receiver. I bought a second one. The one that it came with was already paired. I put it in the Piero kit. Last night I was setting it up for the TTO2 and literally hit the button while it was on the second thing. And it was like, bloop. Like, that's it. It paired.
Yeah, literally like a
okay.
Bluetooth. They call it binding, is like the new word.
Yeah. Yeah. Wild. So, and then
it used to be you had to have multiple crystals that were matched
yeah.
for the radio to the car. And you had to swap out crystals in the radio to match the car. And then you had to reset all your trim settings every time you change cars.
Yeah. No, now that's all saved in the radio. It's wild. And the ESCs are made by Hobbywing. That's who supplies them to Maya, but you can buy them separately from them. But even that, they're smaller. They're like waterproof, dustproof. They're already set up with like forward brake reverse. And it's like the setup's really simple. You plug it in, you power it on, you give it a second, it beeps, it like figures it out, and it's like, as long as the throttle that you left the throttle trigger in the neutral position, it like figures it out. I remember I used to have to like press and hold the button and like move the throttle on the radio to like set the
Yeah, and then
stuff.
there was a little screwdriver, a little screw hole on the speed control that you advanced and retarded like timing on a car, like a carburetor on a car almost for.
Yeah. So it's like that's it. It's set up. It's like wild. That is.
Yeah, I
But
remember
and
the
then it's
first
funny because
electronic speed controls came out. You either had forward and reverse or forward and brake. A lot of them didn't have reverse if they had brake. So it's neat that
yeah,
now even the entry level ones have forward, brake, reverse.
and then it's funny. So the TTO2 is a modern chassis, but that Piero kit is a legacy thing from the late 80s. So you could see where the chassis was set up. They didn't really update anything. It's set up for like a mechanical speed controller. The mounts are still there, but it's so the new stuff is so much smaller. I put it in there. It's like so much more room, and like I was like I felt like I had it all set up with the servo and the receiver and the speed controller. I'm like, this feels like there's not enough stuff in here.
Yeah, what am I missing?
Yeah.
And everything's just
So
smaller overall too. Like not only is there less of it, but it's smaller. Like
it's so small that they didn't even fix the on off switch is not the right size anymore. So the speed controller that came with the Tamiya kit from Tamiya is not the on off switch is not the right size to go in the factory opening. So it
oops,
comes with a piece of double sided tape to mount it elsewhere.
interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. I can't wait to take this thing out in the yard and try it. I did a
Yeah,
little rally conversion to it.
I'm trying to not buy a new kit, but every day that goes by, it's becoming harder and harder. So
I would, this TTO2 one, pretty simple. It's got friction shocks. All I did was add the ball bearings. It's got gear diffs. I only made really one mistake assembling it. The front and rear of the chassis is very smart. It's like basically a mirror image, front and rear, and it uses a lot of the same parts, front and rear. I had you could put the gear diff in on, say, like the passenger side where the big spur gear would be, I guess I would call that, or on the driver's side. And I had them both on the same side. So I was sitting there, I was like turning the axle, like, or turning the drive shaft, just like playing with it. And the wheels are spinning in opposite directions on both ends. I was like, wait a minute, that's
wait a
not
second,
right.
this isn't gonna work.
So I'm like, oh, I'll go back in the instructions. Oh, okay, I got it backwards. So I just quickly took off the rear gearbox, pulled it out, flipped it, and now they're spinning the right way. But so one thing to look out for, but really all you need to assemble the damn thing is a pair of side cutters, a hobby knife to get the little extra piece that the side cutter doesn't get when you cut off the parts tree. And, it's got friction shocks, like everything's plastic. It's like, and even for like a thing they're going to bash around in the yard, you're better off having all the plastic pieces because they have some flex to them.
Sure, it sounds
So-
like you need a new pair of side cutters.
I can get them pretty close and they're pretty sharp, but it leaves like a tiniest nub, especially some of the small pieces. You got to like build the little turnbuckles for the steering and
Yep.
put in plastic swivels. So I get them pretty close. Then
Well, the RC I
then-
just built is 1/32 scale, so it's tiny.
Oof.
And the side cutters I have for model cars are like an expensive pair of side cutters, and they cut everything real flush. I didn't even need to trim it at all. So anyway, just saying, there are some out there that are real. These are really maybe the way they're mounted is different, but I was able to do it without that. But yeah, I finished building a 1/32 scale crawler with a Piero body. And I'll post some pictures of it on our Instagram page because it is impossibly small. So like the screw heads are like Lincoln's eye on a penny. Like that's how small they are. So it required some patience on my part, but very small. Need to finish the electronics on that. So
yeah,
update soon.
which again, all these electronics got smaller and now they actually fit. Like I remember trying to build, I ended up trading this kit to you, but I thought everything was going to go smaller earlier. I think the Micro RS4 was ahead of its time, trying to be a 1/18 scale touring car. It never really took off, but the electronics weren't up to, like, they were still 1/10 scale electronics.
Right.
So, but now you could easily put these modern electronics in there. That's the other thing. You buy this stuff from Hobbywing, which it seems to be like the hot setup. You buy speed controllers directly from them that come matched with motors, and you don't have to go brushless. You can brushed is still a thing. You don't have to run lipos. You can run nickel metal hydrates, which are what most of these are set up for. I guess I can't run the NiCads anymore, so I'm going to recycle them. And I got to look into more about I think you said you ordered a Hobbywing with a motor, right?
It's in my cart. I haven't ordered it yet. I'm waiting to if I can find my charger before I finish my order.
A couple of them have you can adjust the timing on the motor. I don't know what the advantages that is. I have to look into that. But you can get less like a 30 turn, 40 turn, 20 turn motor, I think already matched with the ESC, which is kind of cool. I don't think I'll ever go back to I had a 10 turn triple in that front wheel drive car. That was like way too fast.
Yeah, all those boil tires and 3-minute run times.
Yeah. It was cool, but yeah, you just like rocket it into a curb. So not really worth it anymore.
Well, I'm excited to get back into it. It's going to take me a little time, but the garage will have a little hobby area in the corner for model cars and RC cars, so it'll work out well.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, like I said, we're just going to roll this segment back into the podcast. So if you don't like it, you can cut out and end the podcast early. But if you like it, you can hang out and listen, just like the NASCAR. So that is what this podcast is. It's about our interests. And generally, the people that listen have very similar interests as well. So.
Sure thing. And like you said, we have already recorded. We've already recorded an episode with a guest that comes out the week after this. And there'll be some more of that coming. I know we've said that 1,000 times, but we're sticking to it this time. So,
yeah. And if you want to see pictures of these things that we're doing, come join the Discord. It's pretty fun.
Or follow us on social media.
Yeah, Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook, Auto Off Topic on Threads. I'm Racing Anger on Threads and Instagram. Also Auto Off Topic Instagram. That's mostly where you'll find me, is on Instagram and Threads these days. Not really on Facebook too often. And of course, I'll be at Grid Life this weekend. So I will try to remember to throw some stickers in my camera bag. I'm usually pretty good about that. Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me at Auto Off Topic on, that's weird. I said that one. TSISS350 at Instagram and Threads. And at Auto Off Topic. I post there as well.
All right, cool. So as always, keep your cars analog and aim for the roses.